will now be the resolution of those issues by the court. Then you have the summary, all right? We have a problem with the summary in that matter. The summary seems to say two things. One saying it is in order that this appeal lacks merit. The other says, yes, this appeal has merit. And the resolution still goes back to what has been done in the preambles. So if we were able to discuss that, it would have been interesting, but you can still call in and ask questions on that. For today's show, we'll be looking at the Akwa Ibom State's issues bothering about on the Violence Against Persons Law of Akwa Ibom State 2020 and its impact, particularly with reference to accusations of maybe child abuse, witchcraft accusation, and it's a specialized area. So I have with me two very special persons to discuss this. One of them to my far left, Etinosa Yvonne. Etinosa Yvonne is a documentary photographer, a visual artist, and an explorer with the National Geographic. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Barrister, for having me.
All right, I also have with me in the studio Diana Basi Akanimo. Diana Basi Akanimo has been inside the women, the children, and women abuse matters since 2010?
2008.
2008. That's with the Way to the Nations. She's actually a development partner or a development worker with Way to the Nations. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Very recently, or before then, about 2010, we had the Child Rights Act passed into law. And that seemed to have solved all the problems we've had with child abuse, child witchcraft accusation of children. And sometime around 2000 ending of 2010, 2011, and the Akwa Ibom State government set up a panel of inquiry of witchcraft accusation and child abuses, which x-rayed and tried to investigate, albeit informally, the reasons why children are stigmatized, abused, and thrown out of their houses, and the way we can socially curb these things beyond the law, right? Whereas there was a law that sought to handle that, there were social aspects of it that could not be controlled by the law. So when we had that, when that panel was set up, it was headed by Honorable Justice Godwin Abraham, retired now, and the secretary to the panel was Honorable Justice Teresa Abbott now. Then she was a barrister, Teresa Abbott. It was quite an expository. Unfortunately, I would say the report of that panel was not widely publicized and has not been implemented to an extent. Now, Etinosa Yvonne has come in with some documentary that has questions, and Diana Basi 6 questions too, as to why the law has been a bit on the drag with respect to handling these issues. I believe so. So, Etinosa, let's have a little of what you do as your work with respect to this particular mission in Rio.
Okay, so I'm currently working on a project. It's called It's All in My Head.
It's All in My Head?
Yes, It's All in My Head. So
okay.
It explores the coping mechanisms of survivors of terrorism, instances of conflict and cruelty. And with the project, I aim to advocate for increased access to mental health facilities and psychosocial support for survivors of atrocities. So in 2021 was when I first decided that I had been hearing about witchcraft banding, but at the time when I was still learning about photography, I felt like I wasn't quite sure in what aspect I was going to exploit, in what aspect I was going to sort of do my visual research, as I say. And so in 2021, when I realized that my project has sort of expanded, it wasn't just looking at one thing. I went to Cross River and I worked with people who have been branded as witches and the impact on their mental health. And thereafter, I had an exhibition in Lagos, which was, kind of insightful. I had a lot of feedback, people saying, oh, they didn't know things like this was happening. And that's what brought me back here. I said, you know what, I'm going to come to Cross River, I'm going to go to Akwa Ibom, and I'm going to take time to have this research and, spend time with these people, ask them questions, and then look at what is the impact on their mental health. Also because what I find with when atrocities happen as a country, one of the things that we tend to focus on is the physicality of the impact on the person's, physical appearance, whether, okay, in the case of witchcraft branding, children, I was just mentioning to you how we're talking about our exhibition to some people earlier today, and they were saying, we have some children in our areas who have been branded as witches, and they're out on the road, and then the person told them, come bring them to the exhibition. The challenge with that is that if those children are rescued and taken to a homes, nobody is really looking at what has happened to them psychologically. What does it mean to be a child? And I remember the reason I actually did work on this project.
You know what?
Yeah, go on.
If I allow you run, you run.
If you let me run, I'm going to speak. But yes, thank you.
Okay, so let's go to Diana. Diana, you have been with these programs, and you've watched a lot of children abused, and you've tried to have a lot of, you've done a lot of adoptions, and you've had cases go to court. Some succeed, some fail, and would I say largely successful or largely failures in court. So questions around the legality or the impact of the recently passed law. Now, we will not forget that the reason the Violence Against Persons law was passed in Akwa Ibom State was mainly due to the COVID-19 pandemic, where people stayed home and psychologically, like one would say, they started abusing their wives and children. It's a familiarity breeds contempt. So because people weren't going out, they were seeing each other face to face for a long time. They got angry and started beating up, and it spiked up the incidents of abuse against children, incidents of abuse against women and the vulnerable people. So the government came up with that law, trying to tighten up the loose ends. Now, has that law really been helpful 2 years down the line?
Well, I'd like to say, for starters, that the Child's Right Law, which was passed in 2008, actually helped to reduce the number of children that were stigmatized and branded witches. That said, we also do know that
Did it help? How did it help?
The number
the number dropped because people weren't coming out as boldly as before.
Exactly, and people now understood that it was a crime. So it wasn't just a matter of saying anything you want to say. You were now going to be held responsible if you said something regarding witchcraft and if you accused the child. So people now understood that there was a law in place. The government of Akwa Ibom State now sees it as a crime, and that you could face jail terms if you had, been found as an offender of that law. So, but going forward, it wasn't just about the law. Yes, the law has helped to a very large extent. Even the government had gone in to save some of the children and had created a home for them to support what other NGOs were doing. But having worked in this field, I myself realized that 5 years down the lane, 10 years down the lane, children, survivors of this accusation that were actually taken to homes and are being catered for, started experiencing first-hand signs of trauma. Now, these signs did not come immediately. So they've been rescued, they have a life of their own, they are now going to school, they are now trying to be reintegrated back into society, and suddenly a child begins to have seizures, a child begins to have panic attacks, a child begins to have real issues with the mental health. And the dicey part of this is that for some of us, we didn't even know where to go, because a child that has been rescued 8 years ago and was doing fine one day goes mute and can't talk again. And so we have to practically use paper and pen. And then we are going from one hospital to the other, and nobody can actually tell us what's wrong.
Okay, so now, in your own opinion, the law
has helped,
but the law has not helped. Because what you're trying to say now is, despite the law, despite the fact that, people are no longer coming out openly abusing people, killing them, because this abuse is not just children. I know Diana hangs a lot around children, but there are other people, adults, the elderly, the aged. You see your mother or your father branded and attacked and killed. Now, this aspect of it, though there is a law that prohibits it, and yes, people are arrested and probably prosecuted, maybe successfully, maybe not successfully, to you, the scar comes back over time. despite those laws. The scars comes back over time. So part of what we are going to look at is how do we make the law to be preventive rather than reactive, okay? Okay, so you wanted to ask some questions on how, I think you had raised some issues about understanding the law and how it works.
Yeah,
with respect to.
I was saying, just as you were speaking, I was saying, you know, it's nice that we have the law for children, but I remember asking, there was someone I spoke to when I was doing the research, and I said, lovely that there's the child's rights law, but what is happening with the adults? You know, how are we protecting adults? Because we know that these accusations don't only affect children, and it's not just passing laws. Are they being enforced? Because one of the things I find, especially in these states, some of these killings and accusations are going on, but they are so silent. You don't realize that they're happening. You have to, and people are so scared to speak about it. Even just today, going out in the street trying to speak to people, nobody really wants to talk about it. I mean, I worked with Madam Diana, and it was, you know, a lot of work to get people to openly speak about it, because there's so much fear. I do not know. It's also because of the belief in witchcraft. So a lot of people don't get to talk about it. But my concern has always been, what are we doing for the adults? It's lovely that we have the laws for children, but what is happening to the adults? Who is protecting the adults? How are we getting people, you know, holding those accountable who have taken the lives of innocent people in the name of witchcraft branding?
Okay, you see, that's the part I want to coming. Recall 2008, there was a child rights law. Yeah. Everybody clapped for it. Whether it was successful or not, I feel like it made some impact. I know a lot of people have come to criticize the law and say it's good, it's due for review, because it was hurriedly put up. The paragraphing and the chaptering, the rules and other things were not, it's not easy to navigate it when you want to use it. Because they didn't take time to put them in sections. So say, okay, this goes to, maybe sometimes when you are setting up this kind of things, you need to have librarians too, who would characterize the laws to say, okay, this should come under this rule, this should come under this rule. So you don't just have it modeled up the way it appeared. But that aside, you also noticed, which is what happened, the law did not capture the adults. The law was meant for children, and part of that law formed the family court laws, which ensure that we have family court that caters for affairs bordering on children. But there was no family court for the adults. So when an aged woman is killed, what does she resort to? The criminal code did not really cover it. So that's where the law, that the violence against persons law, now came in to cover, though the original intent was not to cover against accusation of witchcraft and so on, but it also helped because it generally covered up to people that were accused rightly or wrongly, but laws were taken into their hands by the mob or the populace, right? Because it's usually a mob attack. One person brands you, and the branding is continuous and persistent. Everything that happens around the area, people keep looking at your face. And when your eye is kind of shifty when they look at you, because you consciously know, now they will think I'm the one that has done it. So when you go into a gathering, everybody's looking at you, and you are looking at all of them and keeping your head down. They say, this person he feels guilty. He knows what he has done. And a very hysterical person comes to you. Why are you always doing this? Are you not old enough to die and leave us alone? Why are you still here? Your children, all your children, you've killed all of them. And so those kind of things is what the violence against persons came up to say. I mean, the punishments in violence against persons law, they're quite stiff, right? Incarceration and things, you would expect that people will be worried. But I assure you, a lot of people don't even know that law exists. A lot of policemen don't even know that those laws exist. I've been to court sometimes, I've been watch brief. What we mean by watch brief is when the complainant needs a lawyer to support him at the police station and even in court to guide the police to do the right thing so they'll be compromised, or maybe they would not miss out of some things a lawyer would know and they don't know. I try to encourage them to use the violence against persons law because it's more of preventive. You know, if you feel somebody's intimidating you, the law says lock him up for 7 years or 14 years. Just for intimidating you. And the intimidation doesn't need to be rocket science. So if you come under that law, it's 14 years. But if you come under the criminal code, 2 years, 3 at most, right? So if the police department is aware that they could take advantage of this kind of provision in the law, you lock the first, the second, the third person, the deterrent is established. That you're moving to a correctional center, and it's not it's a bailable offense, but the bail is high. The conditions for bail might not be such that you meet easily. Yeah. So before the trial is over, you might have spent 3 years in custody before the eventual sentencing. So people would kind of calm down and review their position. So what am I saying in essence? The VAP has come in to fill some gaps between the child rights law and now. But how do you see those gaps that have been filled? How is it impacting on the society? Has it really prevented, or it's left some question marks? Yeah, Dana, you are the field person here.
Okay, well, I'd like to start by saying that the VAP law is not widely known for now. You know, so there's still a lot of studying, researching, you know, trying to see where and how people can take advantage of that law. But for me, I do appreciate these laws. Working in the field, though, goes beyond these laws. I'm not sure there's actually any law that can be made that will help the mental health of a survivor. Rather, I just think if there are basic facilities, social services, that a survivor can just walk in and have psychotherapy sessions, for instance, to deal with trauma. A survivor can have access to proper medical attention. I'm going to give a very clear instance. I had secondary trauma, my personal experience now, because I have worked with these survivors over the years, and I didn't even know I had secondary trauma. Now I started having high blood pressure, I started having panic attacks. I didn't know what they were. So I was going from one hospital to another. I went to hospitals in Akwa Ibom and outside Akwa Ibom. It took going to about 14 hospitals before we could finally get a medical practitioner who wasn't even a psychotherapist but could lead us to what was wrong with me. So now, that was when I knew, after 2 years, that was when I knew, oh, so this is what was wrong with me. I was experiencing secondary trauma. I had to deal with all of those things without getting proper diagnosis. Now it's the same thing that are happening to the survivors. Yes, the law is there. The law is going to act as a deterrent when people are being punished for their crimes. But my focus is rather on the survivors. For me, my focus is rather on what happens to them.
Now, are you also aware that law is defined as a tool of social engineering? Now, if you know that, then you see where laws can come in. Before recently, there was this, would I say law? But it acted almost like a law, a directive, that victims of gunshot victims cannot be treated without a police report. And a lot of people died. A lot of innocent people died. Then over time, they've come to realize that that law that was made in the 1990s during the time of Anini the law, those criminals then, I think it was the fallout of Anini the law in the early 80s and late 80s and 90s, where you had the devil armed robbers who robbed banks in the daytime and threw the cash in the market, and just people were scattering everywhere. That they said, okay, if somebody comes in with a wound, let us know who he is, because the police are on the attack. They are looking for people that they have shot and they run away with the gunshot wound. Now, after that, they forgot about it, and the law stayed, and people died. The same thing can happen now. Okay, if there are people that have psychotherapy issues, can we make a law that regulates it, that says, okay, psychotherapy, whoever studies every hospital must have a psychotherapist.
Mental health clinic.
Yes.
It should be.
And you must have a psychotherapist, resident, for instance, there's a law that says no pharmacy, no chemist or pharmacy can open without having a resident pharmacist.
Yeah.
So it's a law. You could use law, right? You could use law to ensure that when you when you have a local clinic, primary healthcare center, there should be something, but it should be linked to a psychotherapist around the area where they could be guidance and counseling of some sort. Yes.
I just want to say, it's so funny. It's a very interesting discourse. I just this morning I saw on my laptop a tweet from a police officer who was talking about how being a witch can land you in jail and all of that. I wish I could pull it up. It's just, I think that apart from having these laws, there needs to be a conscious effort of sensitizing the people who should be enforcing the laws. There needs to be an understanding of law, because when a police officer is publicly tweeting, that has a large following, saying that if you are a witch, you can land in jail. I mean, I had to share it with the other barrister and say, this is crazy that a police officer is saying this, and he's not being called out for it. So apart from having these laws, I also think there needs to be like a conscious effort to educate people on these laws that are being passed, because sometimes they don't even seem to understand the laws. Maybe they read these laws and they don't understand it. So there needs to be like training and retraining and a lot of sensitization so that they understand the laws that that are being passed.
I want to probe further. What was the what did the police officer mean?
I wish I could bring out my phone to show
I
it
think
to you.
we'll go on a short break.
I should show it to you.
Then maybe when you come back on that break, we review it. We might not need to put it on FX. We just know the content of it. So when we go on a short break now, when we come back, the phone lines will open. You can call in to ask questions, make contributions, and we take it from there. The short break beckons.
The Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but
there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by gross level. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my Lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My Lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my Lord.
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
All right, welcome back from to Legally Speaking from the short break. We've been discussing the impact of the Violence Against Persons law and the way forward to see how it can intervene with the abuses against the elderly people that have been branded as witches and wizards. I've been with Yvonne Tiosa and Diana Basi Akadimo. That's still in the studio. The phone lines will now be open, so you can call in to ask questions, make contributions, suggestions as the conversation goes on. The numbers to call will be 090-222-31011. I repeat that number, 090-222-31011. The alternative number to call will be 070-454-17707. I repeat that alternative number, 070-454-17707. So, it's yes, sir. We were talking about a tweet by a police officer and you were scared, right?
I'm shocked. I think shocked is the better word. I'm just going to read it out. He says, if you don't believe in witchcraft, juju or charms, it's on you. The law knows about it, and the Criminal Code Act chapter 20 section 210 said, and then he puts the column, he says, offenses in relation to witchcraft and juju, any person who by his statements or actions represents himself to be a witch or to have the power of witchcraft, or then he continues to go on, and then second to the last bit, he says is guilty of a misdemeanor and is liable to imprisonment for 2 years. And that tweet, I remember when I saw it, was 2022, it got a lot of reactions, people trivializing a serious issue that is costing people their lives. So I'm really curious, when a police officer is this a misunderstanding or is this misinformation, or maybe you can educate
I think if you hello, yes, good evening.
Yes, sir. My name is Live. I'm calling from Uyo.
I'm live from Uyo.
Yes.
Okay, go on, sir.
Yes, please. I always like this program, although it has been a while. I'm not calling.
Okay.
But please, I need legal advice. That's what why I'm calling. I read all what you people have said. I appreciate the law of child rights, what the government have done in place so that all these accused of witch and witchcraft, may have the end. When the reason why I'm calling is I was on September between 5 and 6. I was falsely accused, I was kidnapped, tried by ordeal by some certain people, powerful people whom I bought. I'm a generator repairer. I bought generator for them, old gen from them. Then after I whipped lost, the generator was stolen. The generator has been keeping outside. Then the man and his wife sent boys, and I was kidnapped and tried by ordeal at Mbia Yauban. So I was rescued by mob. I was rescued by police intervention. Then the woman was arrested at the police station at warehousing. Then he pleaded, the husband came and pleaded that the matter should be settled. After 2 days, they now become a complainer at the Koropanabia. When I went to the station, I was arrested by after 2 days. My lawyer came. I reported the matter to the lawyer. The lawyer came, and they have been taking statement from me. They realized that what the woman said, it was a lie. He now been arrested by the order of the commissioner, and the commissioner handing over us to the deputy commissioner of police. And after everything, the both party met, and it was the deputy commissioner of police now gave a directive that the investigation has been it has to be taken by the anti-cultism unit. He was given 1 week that those people should be arrested. Those boys whom he has been used to kidnap me and have been taken for trial and ordeal at Mbiayo. But my brother, up to today, is making 3 months. If the IPO does not bring the report, and my lawyer has been writing a petition to the Office of Attorney General. The Office of Attorney General take over the matter, and after they have been taking matter, they send a first letter for the IPO to release the case file. It was only released only 1 case file. The boy who take my picture where I was in police custody, sent for internet, and the matter is in court up to today. The rest of the people, they sent another letter for the man of the case file up to today. The police authority does not release the case file. And I have document here. My number can show. My name is Uwan. I'm calling from Uyam. This is not lie. I have all the documents as evidence that I can back up. I need what should we do if the Office of Attorney General and Police Authority to release the case file up to today? They are not releasing. What do I do?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir.
All right. You see, that's exactly. I think he's dead on point. That law you've just read is what was cited by the Deputy Commissioner of Police. Trial by ordeal is like asking somebody to take an oath that he did not commit an offense or is not a witch or some things. Yeah. Now that's part of what that law came to do. The law is just cited by the police officer. The law simply says when you come out and say, I'm a juju man, I can make things happen. I will give you an oath to swear. That person is liable. He has committed an offense. I'm a witch doctor. All right? Now, when you distinguish it from you being accused to be a witch, you see that difference, right? In his own case, he's seeking a remedy, which is part of what we said that is part of what we are discussing. What's the impact? The law is there. The law should have sailed through for him. But the law has failed him.
Yeah.
He has tried everything he could with the Commissioner of Police, and they seem to be stumbling blocks. Hello. Welcome to the show.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Yes, your name and where you are calling from?
Well, I'm Ibro. I'm calling from Kaduna State.
Ibro from Kaduna State. Go on, sir.
I'm at the Bello University.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes, I just dropped in and I heard that you were discussing about witchcraft or maybe accusing a child for being a witch.
Yes, sir.
And then you talk about police and what have you. Although I didn't really get the message, but the thing which concerned me is this wish of a thing. So, if you look at it, there's a lady, a married woman, some time ago. I was discussing, having conversation. Even the husband was aware. So, as a facilitator, I teach children in a school, in a public school. So I was looking at her eyes. I said, why am I looking at her eyes? And she got offended. I said, no, from the eyes, you read a lot of things. And then I was surprised that she reported me to somebody, and somebody was asking me, are you a teacher? I said, yes, I'm a teacher. Okay, no wonder. I said, if the woman is clear, she has no guilty conscience. I didn't call her in which, but she was saying I was looking at her eyes, what I'm asking from her eyes. I'm asking something. So I began to think otherwise. When you call somebody a witch, and the person is not a witch, the person will be free, will move freely. But when somebody begins to think that they are calling a person a witch, that means there's a question mark. So I don't know why some people are always taking somebody call you a witch and you want to go far, you go to police station. I don't know, that's why I say, well, I didn't get the message from the beginning. But, when somebody accused you wrongly, you say a clear conscience fears no accusation. And somebody accused you wrongly, and you are innocent. Why should you be afraid? Somebody call you when you know that you are not in which you go on with your normal business.
All right.
Well, that's just what I wanted to say. I just narrated my...
Thank you very much. I will not allow you to respond immediately, because I know where you're going to. That accusation can lead to the date, has led to the death of so many people.
Many people.
So many people. You say, even no matter how clean your conscience is, one person calls you a witch, the second calls you, the third person calls you, the mob calls you witches. And the next thing, there's a tie on your neck.
That's it.
Next thing, you are hung on the cross.
That's it.
So let's get back to the first question.
Thank you.
Now, that's the challenge we have in the law. They've made all these provisions in the child rights law, in the violence against people law, and they are people that are meant to enforce these laws. And the smallest people, the smallest person like an IPO, a corporal maybe, has refused to forward the file. They've taken this matter as far as the Attorney General of the state, the chief law officer of the state. And they've sent part of the file and returned the other, maybe because there's been financial gratification. But the hope is not lost. If that is what has happened, have you petitioned the Inspector General of Police? Sir, this is what has happened. And there's a team called the X Squad in I think every police formation. That's the police. Have you gone to the police of the police to say this was the order made by the commissioner or the deputy commissioner that these people be investigated? To date, they have not been investigated. I have a list of people that should be investigated. They have not attempted any investigation. The Attorney General of the state has ordered that this matter be transferred to them for legal advice. They've only sent one file. There were 2 arrests. There should be 2 files. One at Ikorok Panagua Police Station, the state headquarters, and the other at the Westhousing Police Station, right? The divisional police there. They've only sent one from the divisional police where I was accused. They have not sent the one I accused them, or vice versa, right? So, hope is not lost. One thing you must be sure is that criminal matters don't go stale. You continue on a criminal matter, 9 years down the line, it is still active. My friend from Kaduna has said, why are you bothering yourself? A simple accusation of child witchcraft and you go to police. No, sir. No, sir. Go to the police. Somebody looks at you in the eye. Some people don't think you're looking at them because you think they are witches. They feel intimidated because they don't look at... Some people don't ever look at you in the eye. They always look down. They feel uncomfortable looking at people directly in the eye. So that doesn't make them witches. So we can brand people based on such psychological differences. Some people can't shake your hand. If you come to shake them, they sheepishly look down and greet you, turn their back for you to pat. Now, you do that, another person interprets it to mean something entirely different. So that is why people say, go to the police. he calls you a witch. The second person comes, he calls you. The third person comes, you look at the eye to know if he has heard the story that you're a witch. Psychologically, you are getting damaged as a child, even as an adult. All right? So you have a man who is 60 or 80 years old, and God has refused to call him. His grandchildren are dying, his children are dying. He's afraid I'll be branded. Okay? Because they brand him. What are you still doing around? All your mates have gone. What you want to come and watch Chelsea with us? During your time, was it Chelsea and mine? Right? So those are some things that the law came to resolve. So I'm very grateful for the call that came from the man that was arrested in the Withousing Estate. That call has set the tone for those questions. What is the law doing? The law is supposed to be preventive, or, reactive as it is now. If you are called, what happens to before you are called? What happens to a likelihood that you might be called? Because when you see a fundamental right enforcement rules, fundamental right enforcement rules provide as much as if there is even a likelihood that your fundamental right will be abused, go to court. And tell the court it's likely to be abused. Award damages for me. For that likelihood. He didn't say the abuse. He said for the likelihood. If it is abuse, go to court again for the abuse. If it is continuous, continue. And the court will award damages serially against it. Because for everyone, it's a fresh course of action. That's what the law says. So in the case of these kinds of abuses, you go harvest a 80-something-year-old woman, dismember her in front of the child. But the children abandoned the house. Was there a closure to that case? No closure. No. Everybody's afraid of the villagers. The police can't even go in there.
They can't go in.
You go to the police and tell you, oh, that's that area. My brother, if we tell you how he
tough.
He tough.
He tough.
So the law is arm twisted. The law is helpless against these people. So what's the way forward? All of you that have way to the nation.
Okay, I'd like to quickly say that there is something that the Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Committee in Akwa Ibom State, in collaboration with Girls Power Initiative, is doing, which I find rather very interesting. Now, one of the things they're doing is actually to go to local communities, and they train village heads and chiefs, and they build their capacity to set up bylaws that are guiding their local community that you cannot batter your spouse. And that if that happens, they now give a fine that the community charges you, or other forms of punishment that they can give to you, so that their community can be abuse free, like gender-based violence abuse free. So I just thought of it now, and I said, wow, because you did say something very interesting, like making a law that every hospital should have like a mental health clinic and a psychotherapist always present. Exactly. And so I thought that yes, this could actually work even in the local communities. If bylaws are made at the local level, like the real grassroots level, that in my community you cannot brand a child or an adult a witch. And if anybody is found branding another person in this community, even before we get to court, this is what we are going to do at the community level. So now we've kind of tightened even the traditional setting, and you also have the law at the state level to to back it up. So I'm looking within those lines that is something that
I think yes, it sounds good, it sounds workable, except that if it is done by the community, the moment the real law comes in, for instance, I go to court, I go to the police, that of the community crumbles. Because the law provides that it's only a court properly so say can make orders as regards to criminality. So if a local community brings you together and say you have done this, socially it ought to work. But what happens when that person moves ahead to the court? The moment he does that, everybody scampers, and the next person will not continue because the first person succeeded. Others will not follow through. But with respect to the provisions of the law, going back to that police officer's position, the police officer was not entirely wrong. The police officer is saying, if you think there are no witches, the law recognizes it. Now, whether he's saying it in a sadistic manner or not, if he's just trying to pass the message in line with the law, he's telling you that if you brand somebody a witch, the law will come after you. If you come out and say, I am a witch doctor, and you cause unnatural things to happen, the law will come after you. For instance, now, a man comes in and they say it's a trial by ordeal. All of a sudden, bees come from nowhere and cover one man. That's obviously witch doctrine.
So are you saying that they can persecute someone for that?
Yes.
But what is the science in bees coming? What if it's the case of coincidence?
Coincidence on one man.
Yeah. How do you prove it?
No, you don't need to prove.
Okay.
The moment you prove that bees came on one man and there were 5 of us, then it goes beyond natural. It becomes unnatural.
You mean that this is persecuted at the
yes,
national level?
you persecute and succeed. Thunderstorm in the middle of nowhere. That's supernatural and you have witnesses. So that's witch doctrine.
But I want to ask, don't you think that some of these things can, I think that this is quite problematic. What if I am just innocent and it happens that thunderstorms or bees just come and I have nothing to do with it? It means that they can accuse
you said before it happened that something unnatural will happen to you if you are a thief or if you are a witch. And all of a sudden something unnatural happens to that person that has been branded, then you can be prosecuted.
No, in the case where I say, if I say to somebody, 5 people come
out or a mob comes out and they accuse, where's Dinah? They accuse Dinah and say, you are a witch. And Dinah says, I am not a witch.
Yeah.
They say, okay, let's know if you are a witch. Witch doctor, come. Witch doctor says, this woman is a witch. For us to confirm that she's a witch, bees will cover her. And then bees cover her. And there are 5 of us standing here. It's only one person that bees love. How? Is she the only nectar? So there's supernatural events that has occurred and the law comes against you.
So the law is coming against the witch doctor, right?
Yes, the witch doctor, not the person that has been covered by witch.
But now, what if the reverse is the case? What if a child
confesses?
A child says, well, I'm not a witch, and every other person believes this child is a witch, and they now tell the child to... And because they've mounted so much pressure, the child confesses, and they all applaud and say, yes, oh, so you're a witch, we've gotten the truth and all of that. And then out of anger, this child says, don't worry, I'm going to hurt all of you. And then 3 days later, 2 of the people, members of the community, they start having swollen feet. What happens?
Now, what happens is they go to the hospital.
Oh, I like that.
Well, it's lovely.
What happens is they go to the hospital.
But from
what you have just said,
yes,
it means that someone who claims to have is a
no, don't forget to.
Yeah.
The premises is child. How do you prosecute that child? What evidence do you have against that child? Do you understand? Yeah. You say the child has been accused, and out of pressure, the child accepts to be a witch, and eventually, some of the accusers begin to have swollen foot. And you say it's that child that has caused it. My dear, it will take you a long time to prove that in court.
But what if it's an adult with maybe early signs of dementia that say things they don't even know they're saying?
If it's an adult that says that, you have to take that adult to court. See, it's not rocket science. This adult said I would die. Take him to court. Let him go and explain to court why I'm dying.
No. There have been cases of where...
you don't take the law. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
No self-help. You don't take your law into your hand to kill that adult who said I will die.
No, that's the next
step. We know that.
So if that adult does that, take that adult to court. I say section D says you shall not be a witch. And that law will look at it. And you prove it by science or by evidence that this is what this person says. And this is what has happened based on what he said. court sentence this man to 20 years imprisonment, and the court will sentence him.
Barrister Tony, don't you think
Someone
that
with
law
any
should be
sense of
reviewed?
dementia?
Don't you think that law should be reviewed? I do think it's quite problematic.
No,
I don't think
I don't think they should review it. The burden of proof is on the person that who alleges that this person is a witch.
No, I mean in the case where I come out to say I have supernatural powers, I can make bees sting you.
And they make bees sting me. I take you to court for having supernatural powers to
What
make
if I'm a bee whisperer and I know how the science of how to gather bees and I'm actually not a witch? So
then you have used your bee whispering wrongly on me. Gentlemen, thank you very much. On that very light note, we have to conclude this show. We've totally been out of time, and it's been a very interesting time.
Well,
I've been talking to Yvonne Itinosa, and Yvonne Itinosa actually is having an exhibition on psychotherapy.
Well, it's actually looking at the impact of witchcraft accusations on the mental health of people who have been accused, both children, both adults and also people who victims of, families who were killed, elders and people who were killed as a result of witchcraft branding, looking at the impact of that killing or those torture that they witnessed on their mental health. And it's taking place at the National Museum, Uyo.
National Museum, Uyo, that's along the new Ring Road 2. Yeah, that's very interesting. So if you think you can make bees sting me, get to that museum. And we'll talk about it when we get there. All right. I am very excited to have had you guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us. Actually.
Yes. So let's see what happens next week. Same time again. Just make sure everything. My name is Anthony Bubindi. Be sure everything you do from now till next week when we meet again is legal.
We have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my Lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My Lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court, my Lord.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.